Well, we're winding down to the last few hours of the weekend. Had a surprise show up this morning, which we will talk about, and look ahead to the next couple of days where we're going to be dealing with heat and humidity, but no thunderstorms for tomorrow and Tuesday. And we'll let you know when the break is coming because there will be a break in this after Wednesday, it seems. All of this is coming right up here on this Sunday night. Joe and Joe Weather Show podcast. And you can support the Joe and Joe Weather Show podcast by doing your Amazon shopping with our referral link that's pinned to the top of the chat board or on the description to this podcast. Search and shop, get your stuff. Amazon throws us back a little coin for sending you there, and it doesn't cost you 1 extra cent out of your own pocket. So support the Joe and Joe Weather Show podcast to keep the live version commercial free, and we do appreciate it. And Tempest by WeatherFlow. Get the revolutionary Tempest weather system, and you too can join the fastest growing observing weather network on the planet. The link is on the descriptor to this podcast, and if you use the coupon code SUMMER2025, you get
10% off.
Yes, you do.
10%.
So this was one of those Gomer Pyle mornings. Surprise, surprise. Yeah, what really shocked me when I woke up this morning, which was a little bit before 7 o'clock, and I looked at the radar, and I just was like, where in the name of God did this come from? I mean, this was, I guess it was an MCC, a mesoscale convective complex. And in fact, I do have a 12-hour loop, which I'm going to put on the screen momentarily. I don't screw this up, so hang on 1 second. This is from the Weather Service office at Binghamton, and I picked this up because this spot, particularly because of the fact that they got hit really hard in central New York. There was some catastrophic flooding in a few counties. Oneida County. What's that?
In Syracuse, we saw it on the evening news tonight.
Yeah, and there were fatalities from this too. I just was struck by just the structure of it. It wasn't what I kind of thought on Friday and yesterday that if this was going to happen, it would have been more in New England than any place else. But to see this whole area, and the other thing, Joe, is what it did was basically took out what should have been, because if today were sunny from start to finish, it would have been mid to upper 90s. And because of what happened during this morning and then having to wait for the clouds to get out of the way, most highs, kind of got to maybe the upper 80s to around 90 or so at the highest.
Yeah, here in Putnam Valley, we got to 87. And while it was not exceptionally hot, I can tell you that once we had the sun break through the cloud cover along about 1 o'clock this afternoon, it became really oppressively humid. I mean, it's almost like you could swim in all of that humidity today. And incidentally, last night when I was looking at the 0Z model guidance runs, they were suggesting that, well, there might be some precipitation coming our way in terms of showers and storms, but after 11 o'clock or noontime today. Now, we had left, we put up our pool this afternoon, but we started yesterday. We left a lot of stuff out, a lot of yard instruments out, rakes and shovels and her orange toolbox and whatever. And she said to me last night, says, "Are you sure that we could leave it out there?" And I said, "Don't worry about it. Nothing is going to happen. We're not going to expect any precipitation until at the very earliest, 11 o'clock, more likely noon or 1. If it does rain at all."
Right.
And to be on my side last night, and I know he won't mind me mentioning this, Craig Allen was on CBS 2 last night, and I watched him at 11 o'clock news, and he mentioned a thunderstorm, but he put it in the terms of if it occurs, and it's going to be a very slight chance. So nobody was really thinking very much that there could be significant precipitation. And then 8 o'clock this morning, still in bed, and I wake up and I hear like a rumble of thunder, and I look out the window, out the shade or whatever, and I see it's raining. And I said, "Oh my God!" And I just threw my clothes on, ran out in the rain, and I had to get this wheelbarrow that I filled with all of the stuff that we had left outside overnight, including a leaf blower and all kind. You never saw me move so quickly. I didn't know I could move that quickly still at my age, at 8 o'clock in the morning. But there it was, and it was just, as soon as we heard some loud cracks of thunder or whatever, and I saw what you described in western or west central New York. This whole area just lit up on the GOES satellite of lightning and all kinds of. And I'm saying to myself, well, we're getting it, but boy, are they really getting clobbered well north and west of here.
Yeah,
So
the whole thing moved north to south, which doesn't happen very often, right around the periphery of the ridge. My guess is that the upper high probably hadn't built hadn't built out far enough east, because when we were looking at the stuff late last week, it looked like, it was like this short wave that was running right across near the Canadian border, that it was sort of riding around the top of the ridge and then sort of making that turn southeastward, but it would have done it somewhere in Vermont, New Hampshire, and Maine. Okay. So my guess is that the upper high probably hadn't built far enough east at this point on Sunday morning, so that instead of sliding down in central and more in eastern New England, it slid down in upstate New York, pretty much right down I-81, and then just came, in an east-west fashion, right through the area. The other thing I would bring up is, all this blather. Oh my God. First of all, it's not excess. I didn't even know this. Thank you, Jason Schaefer, for pointing this out. But it's not excessive heat anymore. It's extreme heat. Okay. So we go from a heat advisory now to an extreme heat watch and warning. Okay, fine. But, this was going to be at most a 4 or 5 day affair of 90 plus weather. Maybe tomorrow and Tuesday, we'll see some spots probably challenge 100. Maybe Tuesday somebody goes over it, maybe even tomorrow. But from the standpoint of what are these people going to do if we ever get into a 1977 or a 1966 style heat wave where it's 90 degrees or higher for like 12 or 13 days in a row, and you string together three 100-degree days, and in some places it could even be four, depending on your location. What are they going to do if that ever comes up again? I mean, save the apocalypse for when there actually is an apocalypse.
yeah, and they probably will say something like this has never happened before
Oh,
in the history of
geez.
New York, and blame global warming or climate change. And I'm not poo-pooing global warming and climate change. There are some changes that I do believe have occurred, but certainly if you're going to point to something like a heat wave of 8 or 9 or 10 days, it's happened before. You're absolutely right. We had those kind of situations in the 70s, and of course 1966. Not only did it hit 107 at LaGuardia Airport, 104 at Central Park, and somebody on my Facebook page show says something must be wrong at Central Park because it's much too cool compared to the other, surrounding areas. I said, oh, you mean, Newark and LaGuardia and JFK, these airports with large stretches of paved surface that build up on the heat, as opposed to Central Park, which is surrounded by trees. And he said, yeah, there are too many trees. I said that didn't help. It didn't help Central Park back in '66 or 1977 or even in 2012. That was
Right,
the last time it hit 100.
right. So,
July 18th, 2012, 100 degrees in Central Park. The trees didn't help that prevent that, back then.
well, I get these. I subscribed to this. Uh, I don't know if it's a NOAA thing. It's like some sort of climate thing, just to get latest climate information. They're really good about coming out with certain things, and they issue press releases with an embargo. Okay, when they send them out, so I can get them 3 or 4 days early. But if there's an embargo, what the hell am I supposed to do with that? But uh, they said something on there to the effect of that they have some kind of scale, And on this scale, and they were talking heat waves like this are and I don't, what I don't understand is what's the rationale and how do they come up with these numbers where they say a heat light wave like this is 4 to 5 times more likely to happen than before, whenever before was. And I just don't understand that. I don't know what that means. Yeah, but it sounds, it's written to sound apocalyptic, but I just don't get. I mean, are you saying that there were 4 or 5 times as many heat waves? That's what it kind of sounds like to me. And I would argue that point, at least in the Northeast, that there are 4 or 5 times as many heat waves. And I don't even know what the definition of a heat wave is, because a heat wave in Vermont is a whole lot, in terms of duration, is a lot different than a heat wave in Washington, D.C., or New York City or Boston. So, I'm at a point right now where every time I see stuff like this, even if there's some validity to it, I find myself questioning everything, which is probably a good thing, but it's also kind of frustrating.
Well, that's the way things go sometimes. That's why sometimes when you get really, you hit your forehead. I said, well, technology, you realize that these things, even as recently as, let's say, 10 or 15 years ago, we didn't have to deal with this kind of stuff. This was not something that now, when something happens on your computer, or, you can't call up a certain website, or, you're having problems, you know, now you get really, PO'd, if I may use that term.
Yeah,
These are things that, you look back like 30, 40 years ago. Oh, what is he getting so upset about? Well, now it's a whole different world out there.
yeah.
I mean,
So,
how to clear your cache on a computer browser, that kind of stuff, or your
well,
cookies.
the chairman Scott Briller hitting super chat tonight, reminding us that when he was governor, we never had an extreme heat warning in New York. The record highs. The record highs for Monday and Tuesday in New York City is 96. So I'm thinking that's probably doable.
Yeah.
Or
Well,
should be doable.
and if it only gets to 95, if it only gets to 90, if it falls like a degree short of the record, is that going to make anybody any happier? Oh, well, at least we didn't hit the record today. It was only 95. You know,
Yeah.
anything
Well,
to me, anything over 90 is more than enough aggravation, so to speak.
I'm on your side with this. Welcome tonight, everybody on the chat board. Hope you had a great weekend. Those of you lurking in the background, we hope you had a great weekend too. This is the Joe and Joe Weather Show podcast, and we're here Sunday through Thursday at 7:35 p.m. Eastern Time. And as far as I know, there are no schedule changes planned for this week. So subscribe to my YouTube channel and turn your notifications on so you don't miss us. And of course, it would be really nice if you like the show to hit the fabulous like button. So I'm going to go to the watches and warnings if my mouse will just cooperate here. You know what? I need a director because it's getting
You need a
harder and
director. You need a switcher. You need a whole bunch of things in there. You build your own control room.
I really do, Joe. It's like I need somebody to do all this. Um, so I'm just trying to get this thing to do what it's supposed to do. And let's see if it will do what it's supposed to do. Yes, it is. So we got the watches and warnings map. Now, look, admittedly, it isn't too often that you see as many states as we're looking at here tonight that we have heat advisories all over the place. And then various areas where we've got extreme heat warnings. In Maine, it's an extreme heat watch. New Jersey, the Hudson Valley, New York City, Western Long Island, Connecticut, Rhode Island, the western half of West Virginia, west parts of Western Pennsylvania, and also throughout much of the Ohio Valley, down through the lower Mississippi Valley, up to the upper Mississippi Valley. Again, various heat advisories and extreme heat warnings. We have a tornado watch that's up tonight up in the eastern North Dakota and Minnesota, and some severe thunderstorm watches in parts of South Dakota and Nebraska. I don't know if you saw this, but I think this is probably as late as I have ever seen a winter storm warning on Friday. The Weather Service offices in western Montana had winter storm warnings up for June 20th. I think that's probably as late as I've ever that I can remember that I've seen a winter storm warning up. And in fact, tonight we actually still have some winter weather advisories up in parts of southeastern Idaho and in a couple of counties in Montana. Now, granted, we're talking about elevations at like 4,000 and 5,000 feet and up, but still, just to have them at all this time of year is highly unusual.
And a lot of people who are probably sweating, even though we were not right into the thick of the heat just yet by then, probably saying, so boy, I'd really love to be out there with the colder temperatures and even the risk of a little bit of the white stuff falling. But that's it. All depends upon where you are. It's going to be
Right,
a time this summer, I'm sure, where a lot of people will say, "Look at the Northeast. Look at the wonderful weather they have, and look at all the rotten weather we have here, wherever we happen to be." So
right.
it's a big country, Joe. Not everybody, as you are well aware, not everybody can have great weather from coast to coast. There's always
No,
somebody who is complaining.
yes. And Vincent Croce, your point is one of semantics. If it's after July 1st, then it's early. Okay, as far as snow is concerned. If it's before July 1st, it's considered late because the snow season, the way it goes, is from July to June. Okay, so we are coming to the end of the 24-25 snow season in 8 days. And then the 25-26 snow season begins on July 1st. So I hope I have clarified that to everyone. Not a whole lot going on tonight, though, as far as any kind of storminess is concerned. In fact, you can see what's left of whatever that was this morning, the mesoscale convective complex. If that's what they were calling, did you see anybody that was calling it that? Because when I got up this morning and I was reading the discussion from SPC from the Storm Prediction Center, I didn't at least from the overnights I did not see any mention of a mesoscale convective complex.
I did see something last night, and it was, we're seeing the leftovers from an MCS. I guess they don't call it a complex anymore; they call it a system.
Oh, now it's an MCS.
Yeah,
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm
we're
so
old,
change these acronyms every 5 minutes. I have no idea. They all mean the
we're
same
old
thing
school,
anyway.
Joe. We're old
Yeah.
school.
Some scattered thunderstorm development along the Gulf Coast and along the west coast of Florida. Most of it's moving from east to west. And if you look at how the clouds are rotating, the clouds along the Canadian border are all going west to east. The clouds in the mid Atlantic states on the coast moving north to south. And the scattered thunderstorms in the Gulf states moving from east to west tells you that there's a big upper high that's sitting probably somewhere in the central Appalachians. And that is the driver of the heat that's coming. And going to start, there are some lightning strikes going on in parts of North Dakota and in northern Minnesota, where we do have some severe weather that is in play. And in fact, if I can get this actually on the radar, when we look up here, most of that is, closer to the Canadian border and on the other side, and not a whole lot going on in places further south. You're seeing a few severe thunderstorms popping up in Nebraska. That's where we have a watch up. Here's the stuff in the Gulf states. It's minimal, really, and also along the Florida west coast. And in the Northeast, there ain't an echo to be found from Maine all the way down to northern Florida. Beautiful day here. It was in the upper 50s here this morning, and I only got to I think 84 or 85 here. So we were looking at last week with that heat ridge showing the low dew points in the central and southern Appalachians. That certainly has played out nicely, at least for me here in North Georgia.
Well, I wish I could say the same here, but we had a rather humid, muggy night. And of course, I told you already that I awoke to surprise rain this morning. So, and it's been humid ever since. And I would have to use the term oppressive to describe the way it was out there this afternoon. So, and it's only going to get worse from here, I guess.
More than likely. Okay, tonight on the Storm Prediction Center, you can see there's a kind of a narrowish area from the central plain, actually extending down to the southern plains, going all the way up to Minnesota, where we have a slight risk. And there's two watch boxes in play in Minnesota, in northwestern Minnesota and eastern North Dakota, the severe thunderstorm watch in southeast South Dakota through central Nebraska. They still have this marginal risk from western New York, southwestward across New Jersey and Pennsylvania. That's all done. They just haven't. They need to issue a new map and get rid of that because we're not going to see anything going forward. And as far as the tornado risk is concerned, you can see there's a 5% tornado risk up in Minnesota and 2% just about everywhere else in that zone. Tomorrow, SPC has got a slight risk in a narrow but slightly expanding band from north central Kansas northeastward through Iowa, covering much of Wisconsin and northern Michigan. Nothing. They've got an empty space in central and southern New England, back to about New York City. Not even any general thunderstorms being in. And I got to think with the upper high, it's just the atmosphere in the east is just too stable for anything to really develop.
We were talking about when we were outside today, as it was warm and it was oppressive, and we had the showers early today. And so I ran inside to take a look at the radar, and there was nothing. The Northeast was devoid. And Renata said, well, maybe whatever we had this morning kind of cleaned up the atmosphere or stabilized everything. And so we're not going to see any more precipitation for the rest of the day. And it looks like that's going to be the case.
For Tuesday into Wednesday, we have a marginal, Tuesday into Wednesday morning, we have a marginal risk for isolated severe thunderstorms from Maine, south, southwestward across upstate New York, northwest PA, northern Ohio, Indiana, Illinois, southern Michigan, southern Wisconsin, back to Iowa. And then it kind of expands out to where you get a slight risk that's being indicated for western Nebraska and eastern Wyoming. There's nothing at the moment in the long range, although I got to think that there'll probably be some thunderstorm risk on Wednesday.
Wednesday, and maybe even for, well, not maybe, but I mean, there's going to be a front in our vicinity for Thursday and Friday. We say relief. I don't want people to get the idea that we're going to be getting into a nice, cool, dry Canadian air mass. Relief is going to come via cloud cover and showers, and it still will probably be a bit muggy and humid. But in terms of relief, we're talking about lowering the temperatures noticeably from, 100 or 95 or 90 back into the 80s. And that's going to be therein lies your relief for later this week and into the upcoming weekend.
They also can be more showery down the road too.
Yes.
WPC has half to three quarters of an inch. A few pockets in upstate New York with an inch and a half. It lowers as you get down into Virginia, North Carolina, picks up again a bit when you get further south into South Carolina and Georgia and western North Carolina, where we've got a stripe of an inch and a half plus. Same for South Florida. Some Pacific tropical moisture is advecting through Mexico and heading up into New Mexico, where we have inch and a half to some 3 to 4 inch areas being indicated, and also several inches of rain this week upcoming from Nebraska northeastward to Wisconsin, with the heaviest precip in parts of Iowa and also in parts of western Wisconsin. So, it's all about this upper ridge. And oftentimes when we see these things in the longer range in the summer months, they look really impressive. And then when you get closer to the actual time frame, uh, they wind up being not quite as impressive. And I think that's kind of what's happened here. Now, it's strong today, and you'll notice, I mean, that's a very deep trough that's in the west For this time of year to have a cutoff low like that in Idaho and the jet going all the way down to Southern California. I mean, that's cool. That's very chilly air, relatively speaking, for the time of year for June. The upper high strengthens in the east Monday. We don't have anything that's riding over the top of the ridge to worry about like we did today. If you we go back, you can see what happens here. There's this. It's this little indentation. This is what happened this morning. This was actually the map I have up is from last night, but right in here is that short wave that was riding along the ridge, and then the ridge, the flow was basically northwestward. So again, it seems to me like this upper high just did not build to the east fast enough, and that little ripple just sort of moved its way southeastward around the high. And now, of course, we get into tonight, tomorrow. The high sits over West Virginia. The upper high does, and it's still there as we go into Monday night and Tuesday. And of course, those are going to be our two hottest days. Meanwhile, the trough in the west, part of it lifts up into Canada, part of it drops down into Southern California. And as we move toward the latter part of the week, we start to see that upper high weaken and kind of shift westward into Kentucky and Tennessee. So that allows a little bit more of a northwest flow to come in. So that opens the door for some kind of frontal passage, maybe some kind of backdoorish type of front for later Wednesday or Wednesday night. And then we're sort of sitting on the edge of that for Friday and going into the weekend. So there'll be some ripples in that flow. And I think that probably we could see chances for showers and thunderstorms maybe every day starting from late Wednesday and then going Thursday, Friday, and into the weekend. Not saying it rains all the way through. There will be dry periods in there, but still, there are these little ripples that are going to be moving along. So I think that does support the idea that there's going to be some wet weather from time to time that we're going to have to deal with.
Yeah, well, that's what I was saying. That it's not going to be. It's because of the cloud cover and because of the precipitation threat. That's basically going to be the story in terms of your relief, going from, let's say, upper 90s to near 100 on Tuesday at White Plains. I'm using White Plains as an example. Low 90s or near 90 on Wednesday. Then you're back in the 80s, 85 or thereabouts Thursday, and then maybe even around 80 or so on Friday. 82 on Saturday, 77 on Sunday. Oh, what's wonderful, how delightful, or whatever. The problem with that is, A, it's not going to turn really all that much less humid. We're still going to have dew points probably in the 70s through Wednesday, and then maybe it'll drop into the 60s, maybe on Thursday, and then 60s on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So relief, a little bit of relief in terms of the drop in humidity, and again, noticeable diminishing of the extreme heat later on in the week. But again, it's not going to be that cool, dry Canadian airflow that everybody so loves. It's not going to be that kind of a situation. And I agree with you, Joe, as far as thunderstorms are concerned. I could see maybe a thunderstorm or two popping late Wednesday. Certainly, I could see it with the front virtually on top of us. There could be thunderstorms here on Thursday, maybe training off and diminishing early Friday, and then back we go to more showery and thundery weather to kick off the weekend on Saturday. So again, beggars can't be choosers. That's going to be basically our relief, is going to be the increase in cloud cover and the increase in showery weather and the slight diminishing of the dew point or the temperatures later on in the week. But again, not really a full-fledged pattern of relief coming. But again, I suppose anything will feel better than 95 to 100 that we may see here on Tuesday later on in the week with the temperatures and the dew points lowering, however slowly they do.
Well, there's your frontal boundary on Wednesday. So the Europeans got showers and thunderstorms along it from southern New England westward all the way back to Wisconsin and Minnesota. There's probably going to be some severe weather risk in there, I imagine. And then the front just kind of settles just to the south You got a cool high up to the north near James Bay, but that cool, delightful air, you have to probably go up to Glens Falls and Plattsburgh and points northward to participate in that. But because that frontal boundary is just going to kind of lay there to the south, we're going to get these ripples. And you got the European showing some scattered showers and storms on Thursday, mainly in the afternoon and evening. We'll see how they fire up there. And then we go into Friday, and then it's got something coming in for Friday with another little ripple moving along, this one more to the north. And then we still have for next Saturday and for next Sunday some chances here for some showers and storms. So yeah, there's no clean frontal passage that goes, off, say all the way off up to the through the mid-Atlantic coast and moves out offshore, and a nice little high comes down from Canada. We don't really see much of that. In fact, I'm just kind of looking ahead. Maybe when we get into the first days of July, we might get a shot for something where we actually get a little bit of dew point relief. I just pulled up, just for example, the going out around next Wednesday, which is July 2nd. It looks like the frontal boundary pushes way to the south, and we get a drier high in eastern Canada and lowering thicknesses here in the eastern part of the United States. So that would kind of suggest that maybe the 4th of July, going into the 4th of July and the 4th of July itself might be nice. I mean, who knows if that's going to hold up, but at least that's what the European is showing us at the moment. And across much of the country, there doesn't seem to be anything major going on, although there are going to be days where we're going to see areas of showers and storms, not just in eastern Pennsylvania to southern New England, but from various places everywhere east of the Rockies. It looks like at some point in the next 2 weeks, you're going to have to deal with multiple chances for developing convection during afternoon and evening hours. So it's just kind of typical early summer weather.
It's the doldrums,
Yeah.
if I may use the term. Yeah, yeah.
So the Weather Service tomorrow is going on their latest forecast, on the digital forecast for Monday. That's Tuesday. It just popped up. So here's Monday. So we've got 94 for New York City, 98 for Yonkers, 99. I guess that's Teterboro. 90 for Islip, but uh, Southampton, it only has, I guess that's Southampton there, 76 for a high on Monday. The east end of the eastern end of Long Island, definitely getting a wind off the ocean to cool things down. Also in southeastern New England, it's mostly in the low to mid 70s, which is pretty cool. Philadelphia 99, Wilmington 99, 101 in Baltimore, 100 in Washington, mid to upper 90s across the eastern half of Pennsylvania. Albany gets to 95, 96. Syracuse 95, 99 for Springfield, Mass, 97 for Worcester. So we're talking warm. We're talking hot. And Tuesday, a lot of hundreds on Tuesday. 100 as far north as southern New Hampshire. A lot of hundreds across Massachusetts and Connecticut. 99 for Providence, 99 again for New York City, 101 for Trenton, 102 Philadelphia, 102 Baltimore, 101 for Washington. But then with that front on Wednesday, with some showers and thunderstorms, and also a developing at some point, whenever the frontal boundary arrives in terms of the timing, you'll notice the wind barbs along the coast are all from the east southeast. So the Weather Service, that's for Thursday. I'm sorry. I jumped an extra day ahead. But even on Wednesday, we start to see some east to southeast isobars, probably late in the day or whenever the front passes. But instead of hundreds, we're looking at low to mid 90s, which I guess would kind of make sense. And your 100-degree readings are still going on down in Washington, D.C. and Baltimore, upper 90s to around 100 degrees. And for me, it's nice because they got me at 94 on Wednesday. What do they have me for tomorrow? I'm sorry, for Tuesday. Tuesday they got 94, and today, I'm sorry, for Monday they have 94, 91. So We got to 85 today. I still haven't hit 90 degrees yet, so maybe I'll hit it tomorrow.
Yeah, as I said before, I got to 87 today, and very, very oppressive. And I have a feeling that tomorrow and on Tuesday we're going to go. We're going to go through that 90-degree mark like Sherman went through Atlanta.
Yes, exactly. All right. I think I have Briller Jeopardy somewhere. I think. Um, let's see. Yes. Okay, so the highest temperatures ever, Joe, in these states, as we continue pretty much in alphabetical order. So today, the first state is Kansas. The highest temperature ever recorded in the state of Kansas. You hear me?
Yeah, I hear you, Joe. I was just talking with the executive producer, and I'm having problems on Facebook, and I
Oh,
tried logging in, and the one of the I think the PC upstairs, not the PC, the Mac upstairs has been ringing like somebody's trying to log in. So anyway,
well, I have,
technology, Joe, technology.
yes, Kansas, Joe, the highest temperature ever in the state of Kansas.
How about 118?
That, believe it or not, is too low. CWTR Shark and Vincent Croce nailed it with 121. And a few of you have either said 122 or 120, so you get credit too. 121. I got none of this stuff has happened in my lifetime, but no matter. Kentucky.
Well, Kentucky, I'll say 118 as well.
That's a little bit too high for the Commonwealth of Kentucky. Uh, so let's see what the guesses are. Uh, well, John Melander's close with 115. Cardillo, Fenga, Uber, Maggie P, all correct. Give them bell rings, Joe, at 116. 116.
116. Ooh, wow.
Louisiana.
Louisiana,
Louisiana.
well, they're so close to the Gulf. I would probably say that would modify the temperature. I'll say 109.
Not high enough. The northern part of the state is not near the Gulf, so that's probably where this occurred. Uh, Rutschrock
Shreveport,
Mansky and got it at 114.
wow.
114. Maggie P also got it at 114. How about the great state of Maine? The only state that's one syllable. And
Maine.
Maine is so great that it doesn't need to be two syllables.
Well, you'd say, oh, Maine. Well, they don't get very hot, but I will grant you it probably does get hot every once in a while up there. I'd say 104.
That's really close. Jeffrey Beaver gets it. Jeffrey Beaver's new to the chat board. Hi, Jeffrey. Give Jeffrey Beaver a bell ring. 105.
105.
105. So Kenny Salerno also said 105. And so did Tyler Fenga. And I think that's the last one with the 105. And finally tonight, it's the state I'm in. I'm in Maryland. That's their their jingle, their motto. It's the state I'm in. I'm in Maryland. It's a piss poor rhyme if you ask me, but still, it works.
How about
Um,
100, 113?
Now that's just a little bit much, Joe. For Maryland, that's a little bit much. Howard A got it though. 109. So did CWTR Shark. 109 for Maryland.
Wow.
So those are our states for tonight, and tomorrow we'll probably get into the rest of the M's and some of the N's. And don't Google ahead of time, folks. So, all right, I think we can pretty much wrap it up, and we'll see everybody, I guess, tomorrow night at the usual time, right?
We'll be here. There's nothing going on.
Okay, 7:35 p.m. There's nothing going on in the tropics. There's some system in the middle of the Atlantic that's not going to do anything anyway. And the Pacific system probably becomes another named storm. The sixth one. It'll be the sixth one of the year. But
Yep.
that's, not going to be a bother to us. So we'll see everybody tomorrow. Nighty night.
Night, folks.